And unless I'm very much mistaken, we should be live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Those Aren't Biscuits. It's special because we're on time. Well,
A very
not on time.
special podcast.
We're on the right
with
day.
You. Yeah, well, that's pretty good, right?
Yeah, I'm willing to celebrate over that.
Uh-huh. Why? Are you going to be cracking out the champagne?
Close enough. PBR.
A little bottle of the bubbly.
Yeah. little hipster juice.
I can see the skit now. Let's crack open a bottle of bubbly. Oh, it's a champagne. No, bubble bath.
Cut to the paramedics. Come on, buddy, just pump it out. Come on.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
But yes, this is Those Aren't Biscuits. This is a weekly pop culture talk show where we talk about pop culture and do a show.
Yeah.
I'm one of your hosts, Jonathan Cadet. With me, as always, is Owen Adams. That guy.
Hello.
Over there.
And also with us is Chicken Leeser in the chat who says, "No, don't start yet. I don't have time to watch." Okay, hold on.
All right, well, we tried,
No, hold on,
guys,
John.
but...
Don't worry about it. Just give it
well,
time.
I'm saying, we're just going to cancel, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We're just... I mean, we gave it a go, but clearly it wasn't supposed to happen, so...
Take me up to the bone. Is this joke wearing thin yet?
I don't know. Usually Chicken Lisa tells us when our jokes are running thin, but
Oh, now you're being mean.
No. No, it's okay, Chicken. It's fine.
It's okay, Chicken. That's the sequel to Babe. That'll do, Chicken. That'll do.
That'll do, Lisa. That'll do.
From the makers of the movie about the pig that wanted to be the dog, the chicken that wanted to be a pie.
You know, I hope the next time that George what's his name? Who did Babe?
Just George.
George Miller. The next time George Miller directs a movie, and it's like if he decides to go back again to like a kid's movie, but they still like from the director who brought you Fury Road.
Furry Road
comes Poppy the Lovely Pea Pod. You know, just
Poppy the Lovely Pea Pod.
I don't know.
The movie about the little pea pod that has dreams.
Someday I'll be a salad.
What are you doing, Poppy? I'm going to Vine City.
It just becomes Vice City. Just Poppy walking down the street, and I ran so far away, couldn't get away.
Yeah.
But yes, this is a pop culture talk show where we talk about everything from movies to video games to comic books to regular books to music and television and whatever the hell else we feel
irregular
like.
Books.
Yeah.
These are books that don't have a high quantity of dietary fiber. War and Peace is backed up for miles.
Well, that's pretty normal for it, actually.
It's like Grand Central Station in there. I don't mean like clogged or congested or anything. I just mean a really beautiful ceiling.
Right. One that Spider-Man can traipse around in.
Yes. Well, we've repeatedly filmed Marvel movies there.
Right.
In the bowels of the War and Peace.
Yeah, little does everyone know that the MCU is just a very slow coming adaptation of War and Peace. We're on page 4 right now. So by the time we're all 98, we'll finish chapter 1 of War and Peace, as adapted by.
If like towards the end of this whole MCU project, we found out that Marvel Comics, like the entire history of Marvel Comics, was actually like a stealth project by the New York Chamber of Commerce, I wouldn't really be surprised.
Right? just some alderman on his deathbed, like, we had good intentions. It all got away from us.
So I've been watching the 1960s Batman show lately because my girlfriend very kindly got me the Blu-ray for my birthday because I happen to be a big fan of the 1960s Batman series.
I just assumed that you had joined Opus Dei.
I will go to town to defend. I will
all the way to town.
I will go to my grave defending the 1960s Batman series as I think every criticism of that show comes down to somebody not understanding that it was intentionally supposed to be funny.
Right.
Like it was not supposed to be a serious show at all. So every time someone goes, "Oh, and then he did this and it was so goofy and I did a so bad it was good," laugh. That was like an intentional joke in the show.
Right. I mean, but that was also the time,
Right. And also, like, the joke is that's actually what those comics were like.
Right.
And they made a TV show of them.
Right. I mean, it's funny because I think a lot of people don't remember or choose to forget that before, The Dark Knight Returns, like, Batman was a goofy ass book,
Right.
like.
Right, and people often say, "Oh, the TV show ruined it in the '60s because they started making it like the TV show." No, go read some Batman comics from the '50s. Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Right, like the Rainbow Batman, I think, was a 1961 book.
Right. And he started to get a little bit more serious in the '70s, and they started bringing the Joker back to because the early Batman stories are quite dark. But then you explain to people, no, that lasted about 3 years.
Right. Then the Comics Code hit,
That's it, I mean, there was one we were watching yesterday where he said they were trying. It was involving the Mad Hatter, and they were trying to trace his crimes. So they were putting like pins in a board over everywhere he put crimes. And Batman says, "Come on, let's fill it in the giant lighted lucite map of Gotham City." And when they went over, they had this giant lighted lucite map of Gotham City, and it had a sign on it that said "Giant lighted lucite map of Gotham City." And that's funny.
It is.
But the bit that really got me is there was a plot in an early episode involving one of the villains was planning on stealing a diamond from a movie star who was only in town for the weekend. And when Batman and Robin arrive to like stake out the hotel room and say, "Oh, we've come to protect you. We think someone's going to steal the diamond," she has no idea who they are. And Outrageous is like, "Well, since you're from out of town, you might not recognize our local crime fighters, Batman and Robin." And I'm like, wait a minute. They're famous through the entirety of Gotham. And
that's it.
As being costumed vigilantes. But no one in the rest of the world has heard of them at all.
That's awesome.
I quite like that.
Well, I like the idea of Gotham being like the cousin no one talks about.
Right.
Or it's like, oh, and there's Gotham over there. We don't like to talk about Gotham so much.
Well, that would explain why in the Snyder movies, Gotham and Metropolis are across the bay from each other, and yet Superman doesn't consider both to be his territory of rescuing. Like he's like, "No, thank you."
Just, Superman, there's a meteor headed right for Gotham. I'm good.
Not my jurisdiction. Let Batman fly into the sky and stop it. Oh, wait.
He's just a man. I bet you if he tried, he would bleed.
Superman.
I like that as Superman. Just the really sarcastic, like bitter Superman. It's like yeah, I'm just over here, man from space who can basically a god. I can do what you want, but no, you want to have your pointy ears and shoot people with a gas gun. Go nuts. Have fun.
Well, doesn't he basically like threaten to crush Bruce Wayne in Batman vs Superman? But Batman, he like threatens. He really does threaten to beat the shit out of him, right? Like when he first tells him to like run out of town, stop the Batmaning.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't put it past him either. Like, I'm kind of with him on that. It's like, you crazy bastard. Like, you're.
Well, yeah.
Like,
it's funny because to make the Batman vs Superman thing work, they've had to make Batman absolutely psychotic, which is
right.
I mean,
it's like, I protect Gotham. You just gunned down an entire city block. Like, leave. Like,
it's so
if they weren't criminals, they would beg me to kill you. Like,
Batman might be the only character where the edgy fan fiction has just become the character.
Yeah.
Because even when I was thinking about this, and we've talked about this so often with Batman, you know? But when I was watching that 1960s show, I ended up looking at the Mad Hatter, right? And in that show, he has a mind control hat, right? But he's just a guy who commits hat-themed crimes, right? He just steals hats. Like, that's his thing. He steals hats and he commits crimes with hat-themed crimes, right? But ever since the 80s, he's been like, oh, he's obsessed with Alice in Wonderland, and he wants to kidnap women called Alice and hold tea parties. No, he just stole hats. It wasn't that complicated. Wasn't that deep? So I looked into this, right? And the official canon explanation is that the goofy Mad Hatter who stole hats is a guy. So in year one in Long Halloween, they reference the Mad Hatter, right? So that's
right.
Early on in Batman's career. And in the present days, they have the Mad Hatter, right? But the current canon explanation is that in the meantime, a different person stole the Mad Hatter's identity to commit a lot of hat-themed crimes.
That's mad.
and just for a while, the other Mad Hatter was just a different guy now. He's been retconned into a different person. Just committed hat-themed crimes for a while.
We got some questions here. Tiny Best Secret asks, if you were playing Batman Superman, who would be who? I would be the Spear. No.
Well, see, here's the thing. I was gonna say I would probably be Batman because I like Batman a little bit more than you. But I think liking Batman is not a condition for being Batman these days.
Right,
that sort of rules me out.
like the minute the comic book comes out where Batman's like, I'm glad I'm me. Like, the people would go fucking nuts.
Well, it would.
What is this? What this self-assured Batman bullshit?
It would it would make a difference from him swinging his dick around gratuitously like he was doing this week. Hey, old Batman getting his knob out in the Batcave.
Damn.
And dangling it around in a tiny bit of shadow. What I was really disappointed was, because, like, of course, I didn't read this issue, but as soon as I heard about it, I did go immediately look up the images, you know? Like, because...
Wait, so you're saying that right now in your Google search history, here's Batman dick?
Batman's penis image. Batman's penis image large. Batman's penis image large, high resolution.
Veiny.
So, if people didn't hear this story, Marvel published a picture of Batman's dick. Shots fired!
Hot take.
DC launched a new imprint, because this is the kind of thing that is a bold new idea that's never been tried before. They launched an imprint of edgy new comics aimed at an older audience, because that's... Why haven't they ever tried that in the past, eh?
Is it called Sickness from Heights?
Comic book companies have done this so many times. It never becomes like the bold new thing.
All right. Hello, Loose Corner.
Hello to Loose Corner. How you doing? And then not only that, but Batman's been like living that dream for the last 30 years anyway, as the edgy new comic owned. Anyway, so they were like, okay, so this is going to be like a series of new comics. It's going to be aimed at a higher readership, and we're going to try and do more mature storytelling. And then issue 1, 100% Bat Dick.
That was our first shot.
So in their defense, I don't know if have you seen these images?
No, I have not.
Okay, so it's Batman almost completely in silhouette, walking through the Batcave naked, right?
Wait, with just his dick sticking out?
No. This is why it's such like a non-thing. Like to actually tell it is his dick.
Oh, hold on. Like, give him credit. It's cold in there.
Okay. So he's almost
not necessarily a non-thing.
He's almost completely in silhouette, right? But there's like a little bit of highlighting on like his muscular areas, if you know what I mean. But if you I swear to God, this is what it is. And I have done this because I wanted to know, right? If you zoom in and you look really, really carefully, you can make an outline of a highlight of a little bit of light glinting on Batman's penis, right? And this has made such a stir. DC's like, we will be censoring this in all future printings. It does not add to the story. I beg to disagree, sir. Confirmed, Batman hath penis. I mean, it's sort of dumb that Batman would just be strolling through the Batcave naked anyway, but I don't have context for that. I guess he's, like, changing out of the Batsuit, which presumably means he, like, goes commando. Right. Maybe it's... I like to suspect that it's because Bruce Wayne has all his name written in his underwear, so if he were to be caught with, like, the monogrammed Calvin Kleins, it could be very embarrassing, you know?
He just has Batman written in purple marker. Like,
that's my true name. I want to find this picture for you, but the only one I can find has like a little like highlight around it. And I don't want to show you the highlighted one. I want you to see the true unadorned original image so you can see.
Someone took the time to draw an outline.
Well, I want you to see this image because it's funny. It's funny that this has been such a controversy because it's one of those things where someone was like, okay, we'll draw Batman naked, but we'll do it in such a stealthy way. No one will know. It'll be very casual. The problem is a lot of the people reporting it have also censored it, which is dumb.
Oh, jeez.
But what really makes me laugh about this is there's been no outcry from the people who are like, SJW is trying to take away our Spider-Woman's ridiculously proportioned buttocks. Do you remember that one?
Oh yeah.
And the Barbara Gordon cover. Like nobody's asked for this to be censored, right? Everyone just found out, and the general response was like, "Yay, Batman penis!" You know.
Bat dick.
Yeah, everyone was sort of enjoying it, if you know what I mean.
I bet they were.
And now
the cowl.
Now the response is basically, we're gonna remove Batman's penis from it because no one wants to see that, right? Am I right, you guys?
Speak for yourself. I'm looking it up. I'm
trying to find the picture, and I cannot find it. I cannot find the actual picture. And so many people in their own articles have censored it. And when you actually see this fucking thing, you'll be astonished. Oh, I found it. Okay.
Okay, send it to me.
I think this is quite a zoomed-in version.
Yes. So, hit me with the bat dick.
John, desperate to see some bat dick.
I need the bat dick in my life.
I was really, really sad it didn't have little scalloped wings.
Right, like I just said, I wish I had a cowl, you know?
Okay, so I think this version, compared to the version I've already seen, I think this version's been brightened.
Damn it.
So I think they've made it slightly more visible on this page, but it could just be that the version I saw was just darker because of what kind of a copy it was. Because I remember you had to look pretty hard. Okay, I've sent it to you on the Skype chat.
I see it.
And that's a fairly close-up shot of that page, by the way.
Right.
So, this is what's so funny about this is, the whole thing here is, this is part of DC's new Black Label for adults. And they're like, oh yeah, comics for adults. And then someone goes, hey, your comic for adults has a penis in. That's pretty new and interesting. No, take the penis out of our grown-ups comic. Get it out of there.
They've never seen it before. They're not ready.
Maybe they're just worried that there are a lot of women out there who will now be able to identify that Bruce Wayne is Batman in the DC universe. Like, makes it too clear.
It's like, I've seen that disappointing penis before. I do like how they give it an angle where it's not just like straight down.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like little swing off to the right.
You know that was in motion before the picture was taken, right?
Yes.
Sinister Ministers, I'm good without the picture.
I don't know, man.
But do you really want DC Comics removing your right to see it?
This is censorship.
This was the week of Batman's penis. Which is funny because for a really long time there was a really amusing phenomena in comics where after the after the Tim Burton movie came out and started becoming really big, they started drawing Batman in the comics for a while like the Tim Burton movie, which they always do. They always do. When a movie comes out, there's always an era of like, okay, this becomes how Batman looks. And so there was a period, sort of mid-80s to mid-90s, when certain books would have the kind of black leather Batman look in it, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But they were obviously really, really uncomfortable with the crotch. Because the 1989 Batsuit has that molded codpiece, which they've all kind of had. Weirdly, like, they've never done the I hate this expression, underpants on the outside of the trousers look, but they've never done that with Batman in the movies.
Right.
But I found it recently there are people who genuinely like think that is how superheroes used to dress, like underpants on the outside of the thing, and not that's just the color of his pants. Like, that's it, you know.
Well, I think for like Superman in particular, they mentioned quite a few times that they call them trunks.
Right.
So they are a separate piece of like clothing.
Sure, but even when you get away from the era where people wore trunks over tights like bodybuilders, right? Because that's what you're supposed to look like Mr. Universe, right? It's still, even if you're separated from that context, just looks like the color of his pants, right?
Right.
This weird fear comics books, because I feel like this stuff comes from, there's a lot of stuff in the way people treat comic books and superheroes that still comes from an insecurity of comics as an art form. Like the fact that the vast majority of big trade paperbacks and critically acclaimed comic books are written these days for people who don't read comic books.
Right.
Which kind of bugs me. Like, that is the Dark Knight Rises situation we've talked about so many times before, right? The Dark Knight Rises won over literary critics. So all Batman comics of the Dark Knight Returns. All Batman comics of the Dark Knight Returns now because, hey, we want that sweet approval from those people who don't give a shit about comics the rest of the time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that itself goes down to for what a long time was the core of, you know, geek and nerd culture, you know, acceptance on a higher level. Real quick, Sister Mistress says, I retain my rights. You gotta fight for your right for bad dick. And then Lou's Corner says, I'm scarred for life thanks to the discussion of superheroes' genitals. Sorry.
Don't watch Mallrats.
Yeah. You know, and that's the thing too. Like, God, I don't even know how to word this, but like, we've had like female superheroes nude in comics, right?
Right.
That is a thing that's happened. Or if not 100% nude, as damn near close as you can, you know?
Right.
Like the 90s like really kicked off that whole era of like female superhero costumes where you can still see the nipple through it. Where they apparently have like
and
when
when they
of adamantium because you can still see them clear as day.
And when they haven't been naked, they've very much glamorized the sexuality. Like the one example I can think of, and I think it's the one that really sticks out to me as actually really gross, is the way they've treated She-Hulk over the years. Particularly that issue. Have you seen the one where she's naked on the cover but covering herself up with a copy of the comics code? Right. And there's like an actual artist handing her like a skipping rope. Yeah. And she's like, no, I don't want to do this. And they're like, come on, get on with it. We got a whole comic of you naked, you know? Now, that's a bait and switch. She isn't actually naked in the comic, but that's a comic book sold on, hey, if you buy this, you might see She-Hulk naked, right? And that's a Marvel comic. It's not like a, it's not a bootleg.
I don't even know. I know that issue you're talking about. And see, I never got the idea that, like, oh, we're selling this as a way to see her naked. I very much took it as a really blatant shot at the comics code, you know?
Well,
that's
maybe.
How I took that. Like, I took that as a very... Because at that time when that comic came out, Marvel was getting very near to saying fuck it.
But have you actually read that issue?
I think I did a long time ago, but... She
spends the first few issues skipping naked, but it's sort of censored by the skipping rope. And she spends the whole time protesting about the fact that she's having to do that just because she joked about saying she'd do it in the letters page.
Right.
So what I'm saying, I'm not saying... I can completely understand that there is a gag to that, but that was an issue that was very much playing on the fact that people very frequently wanted to see She-Hulk naked, right?
No, have I told the story about like how the whole comic code thing just ended? It's hilarious.
No, go for it.
Oh my god! So I found this out like watching a documentary one time. So what had happened was Stan Lee wanted to do this issue of Spider-Man. He wrote it.
The drug issue?
Yes, the drug issue.
It's a good issue, actually. Yeah. Despite the fact that it's weirdly old-fashioned and racist at the same time.
Yeah. It's super dated. But at the time, it's probably the closest that we're going to get to social commentary.
It was progressive for its time.
Yes, I mean, we already had Green Lantern and Green Arrow really pushing the boundaries with their run by Neil Adams. But there are certain lines that they didn't cross, right? And when that Stan Lee issue came out, editorial basically said, no, we can't do this. Like, there's no way that we can get the stamp from the comics code and put this out. And Stan Lee pretty much said, well, what if we don't put the stamp on there? And like no one had ever considered like, wait, oh, I suppose we don't have to, do we? Like, because the way that the code was written in the first place was, it was always under pretense, like, to have the code, you have to follow these, or to have the stamp, you have to follow these guidelines. It was never written as like, oh yeah, you can't have the comic without the code or without the stamp. Right. And no one. Well,
because they didn't have the legal power to do that.
Right.
All the publishers had gone along voluntarily on the back of the Seduction of the Innocent book, really.
Right. And so yeah, Stan Lee's just like, I mean, it's pretty much like if this is a bad example, but if like Marlboro basically went, hey, what if we just don't put the Surgeon General's warning on there? Fuck him. Like.
Right. Except in this case, that was an option.
Right. But it's pretty much like, it'd be like the same thing. If like they just went, yeah, I don't know. Nah, not today. No.
And once one person does that and it doesn't affect the sales of the book, everyone else just goes, oh, we don't have to do this.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. Like within, I think, 2 years or... No, it was a little bit longer than that. I think about 5 years.
Well, the She-Hulk issue is quite a bit later.
Yeah.
But you might as well put the comic code for a bit on the issues that aren't a problem, you know?
Right.
Stay in people's good books.
Don't you go near them bad books. You get them good books. You make sure you have that stamp on there. Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Comics Code is really, I mean, it's responsible for really holding back comics for a long time. I think if we'd had the Comics Code, if we'd got rid of the Comics Code sooner, what we would have seen was not the deep dive into grittiness that we'd seen in
absolutely
the 80s and 90s.
It's the repressed Christian teenager syndrome, where the whole industry was held back for so long by this ridiculous set of standards, that when it was finally green lit, and like, hey, no more code, everyone, do what the fuck you want, they went nuts. It's Rumspringa. It's
right. I think like Archie was still with it till like 2010.
Yeah, it's Archie. But even then, like, look what happened to Archie. Like when they finally said, fuck the code. Like, Archie
kill Archie.
Died. Yeah, like they killed Archie.
They've been waiting to kill. President. They've been waiting to kill Archie since 1954.
They just completely forgot. They didn't catch that Stanley issue. They're like, wait, we don't have to. Like finally, one of the Archie went off and like went to a comic book store. He's like, hey, and no one else has the code.
I like the idea that nobody from Archie goes to comic book stores. Because Archie is basically like the Christian kid that doesn't hang out with the other kids.
Right.
Right. Oh, what would be cool? You know what the kids want today? Like teenage witches.
Right. But as soon as they dropped the code, Archie went fucking nuts. Like,
you know what? You know what's wholesome? You know what's wholesome and in like keeping with our brand? As a community, Sonic the Hedgehog. No one could turn Sonic the Hedgehog into a bad thing.
It's like, hey, have you guys ever played any of the Sonic games? No, I just kind of assumed. Oh my god.
Is he kissing a princess?
No, the first thing they give him is Sonic Dreams.
What
is this?
Mom, I want to go back to drawing my funny pictures now.
I'm done.
Look what Jughead's doing.
But yeah, like as soon as Archie gives it up, it went nuts. Like you had they killed Archie, and then they sort of come Afterlife with Archie, where it's the Archie kids in the fucking zombie apocalypse. Have you read any of these?
I've read a little bit of the Sinister Tales of Sabrina one, because I think that Netflix show is looking pretty good.
Yeah. So that was actually spun off of this Afterlife with Archie, where the Archie gang faces the zombie apocalypse. It is horrifying. It is and it has one of the most heartbreaking moments in comic history in it, by the way. There's a bit where what was Archie's dog's name?
I don't know. We don't get Archie here, so I have to pick up. Yeah. I have to pick up my information on Archie through like cultural osmosis,
Right. I keep on saying Bandit, but I know that's Johnny Quest.
Probably the same dog.
Probably. But yeah, there's this bit where Archie's about to, he's zombies coming for him. He's pinned. It's like it's all over. And then for 2 pages, randomly, you start to see the thought bubbles from the dog's perspective. Right?
Like the Hills Have Eyes 2, where that dog gets a flashback.
And the dog jumps to save Archie, starts gnawing on the zombie, but all the zombies come after the dog, and the dog's done for. But the last panel you see is this dog's like glassy eye staring, like fourth wall breaking, like staring right at the reader, and just a little thought bubble goes, "I am a good boy." It's like,
wouldn't it be great if they just if they just published that in like the Archie Weekly, like
they actually slipped it in, put the wrong cover.
Yeah. When I was a kid,
And
when I was a kid, there was
news,
a
the Archie offices burned to the ground today.
when I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to read 2000 AD. But they made a Judge Dredd spin-off called the Judge Dredd Magazine.
Oh boy.
Which, for 1 week, I managed to sneak past the no 2000 AD rule. And then the first fucking page, the first panel, there's a dead prostitute in a bathtub.
So close. Hello, Hawks. Welcome.
Hello. Not to the user named Hawks, but to the concept of Hawks. Hello, Hawks!
Yes. All of you, Hawks.
What's the deal with geese, by the way?
What?
So, yesterday...
random fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, are you starting a terrible stand-up comedy?
What's the deal with geese?
I don't know, Seinfeld. Why don't you keep on telling me?
Are they a duck? Are they a seagull? Who knows?
Get them a chiropractor.
So I'm taking the bin out
Jones.
the other day, and I hear geese, right? And my neighbor used to have geese, right? But she died, and they took all her animals, and they cleaned out her house. So
And the geese ate her.
I wouldn't put it past them, fuckers. The territorial bastards. Have you, do you know how many people start off with farms keeping geese, and then just end up using the geese as the guard dogs because it's too hard to get the fucking eggs?
Yeah, geese are fucking nightmares.
Yeah. So, my neighbor used to have geese, so I go out and I hear this goose, and I'm like, I hear geese, and I'm like, did they miss a goose? Or did they miss some geese, forget them? Or did they just, take the cats and dogs, or fuck the geese? I'm not going in there.
We're done.
But I could hear these geese.
It's just two animal control guys, all we got left are the geese. Nah, fuck that. Never again. Never again.
And then I look up, right, and there's a flock of geese migrating, right? Beautiful. Flying in a beautiful V shape, right? Yep. But they were, as high as an airplane, right?
Yeah, they were they hockey players?
They were very high in the sky. And nothing,
go twice as high.
Clear skies all the way in front of them, right, for miles around. Why were they all up there shouting at each other? No, Steven, you're flying in my space. This is my section of the V. Get over there, Julian.
Greg, admit it. Just stop and ask for directions. No, I know where we're going. God damn it, Greg.
Yeah, so what I want to know is why a mile up in the sky could I hear these fucking geese having a conversation with no one around to talk to but geese?
Because sound carries, man. Why do you... I don't know. How do I explain that to you? It's just... they're very loud.
I can understand they're very loud. What are they even talking about? Why are they... Save your voice, man. You're going to need it for that beautiful mating song when you get to south, which is where I've been reliably informed you are going.
Oh, give me some of that. Just...
I don't know where they'd be going this time of year. I think they were Canadian geese, but they wouldn't be going to Canada. That would be silly.
Yeah, I don't think geese are transatlantic.
Oh, we do get Canadian geese. Some of them.
Well, they're just called Canadian geese. They're not actually from Canada.
Oh, come on. Why would they be called Canadian? Oh, is this like the Canadian bacon thing again?
Yeah.
Damn
In
it.
fact, that's where Canadian bacon comes from. It's geese.
Canadian geese.
Yeah, it's goose. It's goose meat.
I think they do come from Canada, right? I think they fly. Right?
Not that far. Are you looking this up?
Yes. Well, I am, except a Canadian goose doesn't seem to exist. I've googled Canadian goose and been directed to a cosmetics line. No, give me the okay. The Canada goose is a large wild goose species, native to Arctic and temperate regions of North America. Its migration occasionally reaches northern Europe. Yeah. It has been introduced into the United Kingdom, New Zealand, Argentina, Chile, and the Falkland Islands. I like this. Like most geese, the Canada goose is primarily herbivorous. All right, where are these carnivorous geese?
Primarily.
Where are these primarily? If I'm pushed, I will take down a gazelle. But
Just like I've killed a man. All right,
like
I'll do it again.
Like most geese, the Canada goose is primarily herbivorous and normally migratory. That definitely means there's at least one species that stays exactly where it is and it will fuck you up.
Aren't you gonna migrate? No. Come make me, bitch.
Give me your burger.
No, when I was a kid, I lived in this apartment complex, and it was a pretty nice apartment complex, and but across the street was another complex, but it was a little bit nicer.
Sorry, it just occurred to me that if I was French, I might think you were talking about a really complicated apartment. So... Sorry.
Jesus Christ.
Apartment complex. I don't know, I just jumped in there and I couldn't get rid of the thought and I had to say it.
I lived there for 2 years. I didn't want to, but I couldn't get out. But across the street was another apartment complex, but it was a little bit nicer.
I can't hear anything but that now.
Okay, I lived in a collection of apartment buildings that were, organized in such a way to resemble a small neighborhood. All right.
Okay.
You get me now?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry. I feel very bad about that one, but it won't leave my brain.
And across the street was another collection of apartment buildings organized to resemble a small neighborhood.
We should shorten that.
Yeah? Is it Dupont Main Complet?
Dupont Main Complet. No, we're just going to call it Shield.
Yes, I lived in the strategic, I don't remember how.
House.
Homeland or something.
House Emergence.
Integrated
livable dormitories.
There we go. But they had like a little pond in their area, and you could actually we weren't supposed to, but they had fish in it. Like I don't know why they put fish in it, but there's all these signs everywhere that says "Do not fish." But we would hop across the street with our poles and we go fishing.
Well, it's one of those things where you wouldn't even think to fish in there if it wasn't for the sign.
Right. But they also had a couple swans and some geese. Now, you think geese are fucking assholes?
Yeah.
My God, swans are the...
The thing about geese is, once you get out of their territory, the geese will leave you alone.
No, but swans hold vendettas.
Yeah, they do, particularly around mating season.
Yeah, swans are the Punisher of the bird kingdom, right? Like, for some reason, it has an issue with humans, and they're like, nah, they'll never hurt another one. I will end them. And so we're fishing, and one of my buddies sees this swan, right? And the swan is kind of minding its own damn business, right, on the other side of the pond.
Which is what you want a swan to be doing. Yes,
absolutely. And we watch the swan kind of walk into this little grove of trees where you can't really see it anymore. And my buddy, in all his infinite wisdom, goes, I'm going to catch that swan.
Right? Oh, great. So many good stories begin like this.
Yeah, my buddy's name was Darren Afanofsky.
That's like good stories.
But so he's like, I'm gonna go get it. And his grand idea was he was gonna use his fishing pole and fishing line as like a lasso,
like a swan garrote.
Yeah. So he goes traipsing over to the other side of the pond and into the grove of trees, and I hear some laughing. And also I hear,
was it the swan laughing?
Yeah. Come at me, bro.
You're mine.
You're mine now, fucker. Let's go. You and me, 12 rounds.
Mano a swano.
So in about 30 seconds, what goes from laughter becomes horrific screaming, and my buddy come hauling ass from that grove of trees, and that swan is not giving up, right? and, he, and, and the swan, in its infinite wisdom, right? And I do actually mean that, sincere, sees that my buddy is running around the pond over back to where I am. And the swan goes, I can fucking fly, and then flies straight across this pond at me, knowing that it's going to catch him on the intercept. So
this is amazing too, because if you've never seen people at home, a swan take flight, it's an amazing mixture of like elegant and clumsy.
Right.
It's not a smooth motion like some birds. It takes some time.
Like for a second, I see a white tornado of feathers and beak become a Quinjet soaring elegantly towards me, and I'm mixed with this like combination of fear and like enrapture. And all of a sudden, my buddy just grabs me by the shoulder, like, let's go! And he drags me. And this fucking swan just flies at us, buzzes over our head, all right? Buzzes overhead, and then curves upward and then back towards the pond. Like he wanted us to know in that last second that if he wanted to, he could have killed us. It's like you're lucky I gave up that life.
Angry Swan? I haven't heard that name in years. Oh yeah,
every
evil.
time I think I'm out, they keep pulling me back in.
They are absolutely brutal, and they are very, very, very territorial over their young. They are like the bears of the bird world.
Yes, in ancient times, my people referred to them as bird bear.
Bird bear. Huh, that sounds nice. Sounds adorable. You'd be wrong.
Tiny Best Secret says, "Oh, if you boys had the audience for Super Chat, that story is very much worth a donation." Well, thank you. I'm glad that my near-death swanning earns me $1 or $2.
When I was a kid, my mum took me to London and promised me all the way that we'd go feed the pigeons in Leicester Square. And we got there, and there was a little person selling birdseed.
Isn't that like a lyric to a song? Feeding pigeons in Leicester Square?
Maybe, but a lot of people do it. Or maybe we might have been at Piccadilly Circus.
Piccadilly whore.
So the interesting thing about the pigeons in Leicester Square is they've learned something really important, which is the person who's selling the birdseed ain't giving up the stock to those pigeons. Right. He's not losing any birdseed.
But he is the source.
But he's the sauce.
Right.
So what you have to do is wait until money has changed hands and the person has stepped away from the store with the birdseed, and then you mob that person holding that seed.
Right.
Which is exactly what they did. She was like 3 steps away from the store, coming to give me, at about 4 years old, a box of birdseed when she was just like mobbed by pigeons. Just more pigeons than you've seen in your entire life descended upon her. And we've got this photo, and it's just my mother, like, face down, box of seed, like, outstretched, with birds just, like a shot from Hitchcock's The Birds, just all around midair, like, flapping, attacking her. It's one of my favorite photos.
The problem is, like, that could be better if, you're showing that picture to, like, your grandchildren or something like that. Like, that was the last time I saw my mother.
She was different after that. She was changed.
Tiny Best Secret says, Mary Poppins, St. Paul's Cathedral. Oh, okay. Was that it? Is feeding the pigeons at St. Paul's Cathedral? Is that the term? Or fuck it. It's been a long time since Mary Poppins. They're making a sequel to that, aren't they?
Yeah, it's called Mary Poppins Returns, but I doubt it will be like the book Mary Poppins Returns. It'll just be a Disney sequel.
I hope it's like Batman Returns.
I went to see that Christopher Robin movie recently. Did we talk about that on the show?
No, you messaged me a little bit about it.
It was good, actually. For what it was pretty good. There were a lot of people taking like 2-3-year-olds in, to get very bored. Like, not a criticism of that movie, but anytime you see a poster that's like a colorful Winnie the Pooh character, that is not the type of film it is.
Right.
It was a good film though.
Nice. In kind of a similar tone, I saw Peter Rabbit not too long ago.
Yeah, it looks terrible.
It was good. It was good.
I don't believe you.
It was actually pretty good. And what makes it really good is it's incredibly self-aware, right? It's damn near like fourth wall breaking. But it's very, very self-aware about what it is. Like, and one of the running like themes is that, you know, these rabbits are talking with each other and to the other animals. And they always get very close to the animals talking to the humans, but they never quite do it until the very end, right? Where Peter, or not right towards the end, it's close to the end, but anyways, Peter does speak to a human. And then, but the human is in such a way that he's already kind of on edge. So he's convinced that he's hallucinating the whole thing. And Peter's like, at least that's what you think you should do. I'm all in your head.
So here's the question. I always think of things like the Beatrix Potter books as being a very British thing. How well known are they in the US? Are they popular there too? Like the original books?
I think the stories are known, but I don't think anyone would really know what you're talking about if you said Beatrix, whatever her name is.
So that's interesting. I'm curious. Yeah. I didn't know that.
We know who Peter Rabbit is. And
Mrs. Tiggy Winkle. Do you know that one? The hedgehog.
Yes. Yep. So she's in the movie. She's in the movie. And
I think
it's actually really funny. She has a great part in it because at one point the evil farmer guy who's keeping all the rabbits out of the animals out of the garden sets up an electric fence. And they want to test to see like how powerful the fence is. So Mrs. Tiddlywinks, whatever, goes and grabs onto the thing, and it electrocutes her, and like all the quills shoot out, and everyone gets pinned to walls and stuff. And it's like, all right, well, we know that. Let's leave. And just shows her kind of grab it again, and she's like, I'm single. I need this.
I think I would like it if I need to see it, but I think I would like it if it was a comedy film, the kind you'd get with kids' comedies. But if the characters were still these weird, whimsical, turn of the century illustration type characters, a little bit like, I'll tell you how I would like it if you were gonna do it as a comedy movie, like the Brady Bunch movie,
right?
Where all these pastoral turn of the century Victorian era animal characters are inhabiting in a silly film. But I don't know, to me that just looks like a wrong way to adapt that kind of stuff. But I haven't seen it, so I can't comment.
I will say there is a nice moment. Unfortunately, it is the credits. But when the credits roll around, all the characters transform back into the illustrated version.
Well, that's nice.
And the credits end with like an animated version of the books. And it looks very nice. Another one of my favorite parts of the movie, though, is there's a woman who lives next door to the guy who's trying to keep the rabbits out of the garden, and she loves the rabbits, like, and she's way into them, and so he's trying to put up this pretense that he likes the rabbits too, but he doesn't. And there's this bit where she's trying to explain to him how the rabbits act, like, oh yeah, and like when they're sorry and when they're upset about something, they actually apologize to each other by placing their heads together like this. And so she puts her forehead against his forehead, but also for them it's a moment of like tenderness because they're falling for each other. So they stay there, they stay that way, like with their heads pressed against each other. But the rabbits are watching this, and it's like, wow, she's apologizing the heck out of him. What did they do? like, geez, like, wow, they are still going at it, huh? Like, man, well, I'm glad I'm not him.
That's pretty funny.
Tiny Best Secret says, yeah, John doesn't know these stories at all. All right. I'm not entirely familiar with all of them, but I do know who Peter Rabbit was.
To me, it seems like a really strange way to adapt those, because it seems like it would be like, so they did the Christopher Robin movie, but that was very true to the Pooh Bear character. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
To me, that sounds like taking Winnie the Pooh and making, well, that movie out of that. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah. I still loved those stories as a kid.
But at the same time, at this point in the game, like, I think that version of Winnie Pooh is going to be almost 100% like unrecognizable to a lot of kids.
Maybe.
You know, because everyone else is more familiar with like the Disney Channel version, you know, The Adventures of Winnie the Pooh and Friends.
Well, sure, but they're all still pretty true to the originals within reason, you know?
I don't know. I don't know. It's been a long time since I read the original Winnie the Pooh book, but I'll remember, you know, Tigger being a fucking lunatic, you know?
That's true. That's true. And Tigger is very much the focus for that kind of change.
Right. But yeah, we teased it last week and we never got to it. But this week I really wanted to get into it, so we're gonna shift topics here.
So bring on the bear.
Bring on the bird bear.
We teased it last week. It's proper good and mad now. Stupid bear.
Down, bear. Down. You get your time.
Why are you the Fire Bad sketch? Fire Bad!
I don't know.
Speaking of which, like, before we get onto this, I just want to say, I've been watching The Punisher on Netflix, right?
Okay.
And it's a good show and I'm really liking it, but part of me still hoping it ends with Frankencastle. You know, just for a little bit of fun, you know?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
So, yeah, you want to talk about Miss Marvel, right? Or
yes.
Ms. Marvel, as is the correct way of pronouncing it.
Marvel.
The problem with Ms, I don't have a problem with it written down, but it is very difficult to say compared to Miss. Have you noticed?
Well, is that a thing over there? Because here, there is no Ms. Like, we do pronounce MS as Miss.
Here it's Ms.
Yeah,
so
we don't do that here.
Miss and MS are different, and one is Miss and one is Ms.
Mm-hmm. See, here, MISS and MS are the same.
MISS is the same as multiple sclerosis?
It's a sad state of affairs.
It's a god-awful small offense to the girl with the massy. So I'm going to sing a Life on Mars now. It's going to be dumb.
With the girl with the massive fist.
Because Lennon's on sale again. Sorry, it's just the next line that came to me. I figured it would fit.
Right.
Yeah, I read Miss Marvel. I will say I don't know if I'm all caught up. I'm caught up as much as I've read everything that's currently on Comixology in trades. I haven't moved on to individual issues yet because
no, that's fair.
Fuck that shit.
No, that's fair. So, what are you thinking?
Yeah, it was all right.
All right, cool. Moving on. Oh, come on.
Well, so there was a little bit of a thing because I actually read the first issue ages ago. The first volume.
Sure.
And then when I went and read through, I read through it again, and I started from scratch again to catch up. And I actually really liked it. I did have my ups and downs with it.
It does have its moments.
Both
good and bad.
I will say there are 2 points in this run that I didn't enjoy.
Okay.
The first is, we talked about this a little bit, there's a time period that I'm not going to get into too much where the volume I was on basically covers the era of Civil War II.
Right.
Now, I didn't read Civil War 2. I knew the rough
Me
gist
neither.
of what it was about, but I didn't read it.
Mm-hmm.
So, right off the bat, I was, a little lost. A bit.
Yeah.
Not lost, but a bit, I didn't have the full context.
Right. And I think I mentioned this to you as well. And like the way I kind of interpreted the circumstances revolving around those issues was I got a really strong feeling that the creative team behind Miss Marvel at the time was not 100% on board with tying it into Civil War 2.
Because the story is largely self-contained.
Yeah.
But there are a few things that you can't get away from, which is it requires, because Captain Marvel is integrally important to that story. Yes. And she's also an important character in Miss Marvel, for obvious reasons.
Right.
It does necessitate that character appears more during that volume than she does before or after.
Yeah.
And so the relationship goes through these huge leaps and changes, and yet, through no fault of the people writing Miss Marvel, if you're just trying to read through Miss Marvel, you are really lacking fundamental context in where Captain Marvel's at right now and what's happened.
Right. And the thing is that because of how important Captain Marvel is to Miss Marvel, by the end of that storyline, even though there's a ton of reasons why their relationship needs to be different, it really isn't.
Yes.
Because
the next time Captain Marvel appears, they with a single sentence they write off.
Right.
Just by no, of course we're fine, and that's it.
Right.
So I didn't care for that. That's a whole volume. In fact, when I got to the end of the volume and realized that was the whole book, I was like, oh, okay. Now I realize partly that's on me for not having read Civil War, but it doesn't.
I'm with you with it because I didn't read Civil War 2 either. I didn't.
And there's another bit that comes a little bit earlier than that, and there is actually clearly a point where the first run of Miss Marvel ends, and then there was a break, and then it picks up again.
Yes.
And I sort of wish they hadn't done that either. It sort of feels like the book got temporarily cancelled or put on hiatus.
It did. Well, it didn't get cancelled. It got put on hiatus because she got very popular very, very fast. So they quickly threw her into the Avengers.
Yes.
And
I think that was a mistake.
Yes, I think a lot of people do, because one of the very first thing that happens when that second run starts, she leaves.
Yeah. She
leaves the Avengers.
Well, the weird thing is, what it means is if you're just trying to read Miss Marvel because you like Miss Marvel, that transition to the show, the series stopping for a bit and picking up again is an uncomfortable transition.
Right.
You have to go read other books to keep up with it. But it takes a while for that second run to get back to where the book was emotionally, right. I would say.
Right. And I think they learned their mistakes too, because as soon as she leaves the Avengers, they start the Champions, and she is a founding member of that group.
Right.
But as you read through Miss Marvel as the Champions go on, they do not reference each other. They make it a point not to interfere with each other. All anyone knows is that, yes, Miss Marvel is also part of this team, the Champions, and they go off and have their adventures, but she's also her independently focused superhero there in Jersey City.
And this is something we've talked about a long time before. It fits in with two things that are a really big problem with the comics industry as a whole.
Yeah.
You can't go buy a book called Spider-Man and be up to date with Spider-Man and just read that book once a month.
Right.
And Miss Marvel is, because it's so new, it's one of the closer to being able to do that.
Yeah.
But it took 2 volumes, and that was already starting to become a problem.
Yeah.
So that just gets... It's just something I wanted to comment on, because while Miss Marvel's still a great book, that is a real problem that hits it so fast. It's a real shame.
It's a real hard... It's a real big issue where... And for the life of me, I have not... I don't know why the comic industry still does this because it backfires on them quite a bit.
Right. I don't have a problem with the occasional crossover. In fact, a well done crossover is great. Yeah. But constant crossovers means it's impossible to get a well done one.
Right.
It just becomes noise.
Yeah.
And the other issue is, like you were saying, her becoming popular and ending up in the Avengers is dumb. This is the Batman being on the Justice League problem.
Right.
Characters can't be in important narrative places just because the character is popular outside the world. Like, I liked her more when she was a less well-known superhero.
Yeah.
But her fame rises in accordance with her fame in the real world, and that seems like they've mishandled it a little bit. But what I will say is, I get the same feel. So that's my negative out of the way, because it's most of my negative. I don't have much negative beyond that. What I will say is, this is the first book I've read in a long time that feels like the same sort of feeling I got when I read Ultimate Spider-Man for the first time. Because I'm obviously way too old to have read Spider-Man when it was new, right?
Right.
And when I read Spider-Man comics as a kid, new ones, he was a science teacher, like a 30-year-old science teacher, you know? Very established, all that stuff. You don't get stories about new superheroes that much, really. And when they do, they often go for quite a different angle. This feels, in so many ways, so much like classic young person Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And it is just that it's a teenager, but there are a few different types of superhero. And Spider-Man used to be a very rare type, but he still isn't that common, right? The person whose main issue is, how do I be a normal, ordinary superhero and run a life, right?
Right.
Not like the world domination thing, but how do I stop the car crash and get home in time for the important dinner I'm supposed to be at with my aunt's friend, right?
Right. It's stakes, right? It's like, so you see very often, especially with new comic book characters, and you don't see a lot of new comic book characters within the big two so much, Marvel and DC. But like, even if you read brand new heroes out of like Image or Boom or something like that, they still have the mistake of upping the stakes very quickly. Where you start out like, okay, well, this is a person, they have some sort of powers, or they're they're some sort of vigilante, or something like that. And all of a sudden, within like 3 issues, it's like, oh God, save the world.
Yeah. And this is something they used to get right. If you go read old Spider-Man from the beginning, he doesn't become like big world-class hero until like the 80s. They kept him on his level for a long time. They got it. Miss Marvel is one of the first characters I've read in a long time that feels like they're writing that story. This is the normal human being who has a life to lead and a personal life and all these different expectations, and is also a superhero. And it's still such an appealing narrative.
Yeah, and it's something I give the creator, G. Wilson, a ton of credit for. Or, excuse G. Wilson, G. Willow, sorry. A ton of credit for, because she's a very good writer, for one part. But she has also shown incredible restraint.
Right.
With her character.
Which is something that is lacking in mass-produced art a lot at the moment. Movies, TV, the ability to hold back is very rare.
Right.
So no, I'm really liking it. For people who haven't read Ms. Marvel, I suppose just a quick summary.
Yeah, why don't you tell them that? I'm going to be right back.
Okay, so Ms. Marvel is an Inhuman, which is a little bit like an X-Men. A little bit like a mutant, in that it's a character who acquires powers. Well, a character who is born predisposed to have certain powers. The big difference between mutants and Inhumans being that they have to have them activated, but it's similar to, for people who aren't in the comics, it is similar in concept to being a mutant, except they need exposure to a thing called Terrigen before they become Inhumans, and there is Terrigen around in different sources. Now, most Inhumans, they do tend to be fairly involved in the plot involving the wider thing going on with the Inhumans, but Miss Marvel isn't really part of the Inhumans thing that much. She does know the Inhumans and is involved in that a little bit, but she gets her powers Hey, welcome back. She gets her powers randomly as a teenager. She's caught in a thing called the Terrigen bomb, although she doesn't really notice. Yeah. And she acquires basically like kind of like Mr. Fantastic powers, basically stretchy powers.
Well, it's not necessarily stretchy powers. It's how do they? She can get like bigger and smaller, and she can like choose what parts of her body gets bigger or smaller.
But like to a layman, I would say we're talking like Mr. Fantastic. Big fists, stretchy. She can make herself very big. She can make herself very small. She has the ability to basically change her shape and size. Early on, she can actually change her face too, and I think they were originally planning that to be one of her powers, and then realized they weren't really using it, and that it actually wasn't as fun to have. So they basically say, "No, the more you use your powers, the more you heal, the more you're gonna get stuck in the same shape."
Sure.
Which, as far as retcons go, it's not terrible. They got it in early enough that it didn't seem like a big twist. Although it does make going back and reading that first issue again really quite strange because of how much of that is about those first few issues. How much of that is about the fact that she can look different. She names herself after Miss Marvel because Captain Marvel's her hero, and she sets about being a superhero. She has a healing factor as well, which is cool, and they make the good choice of giving her a healing factor, and then
Sinister Minister says she can get out of speeding tickets with that power.
Yeah, except she can't drive.
Right.
But they do a good job of actually giving her a healing factor, and then actually putting certain limitations on it. So early on, her healing factor stops her from shapeshifting into other people, but they basically say she can heal, and she can heal from most things, but when she can heal, she can't really do as much with her powers. And she has, like, high metabolism, so she needs to eat. I think they say she's, 15 early on? Or
15 or 16,
she comes from a fairly conservative Muslim American background.
Well, I don't even know about that. I would say that she comes from a traditional Muslim,
I suppose what I mean is, relatively speaking to non-Muslim families. Obviously, her brother's very conservative,
right? And that's kind of a thing. Like, I think I would say that her family as a whole probably falls in the moderate,
right? Yeah.
Thing.
Fair enough.
But then, like, her brother is actually very conservative and very, very traditional.
And she's in high school and has all these high school friends, and it has a weird vibe of like Buffy before Buffy got super serious. There's a team of people. They don't have a lot of people that know her secret identity except for Bruno, really, early on, and that's kind of the setup. She's a high school student. She wants to solve crimes. Well, she wants to help people. What really sets it up, and from there it's pretty good, right? And I would say it's in line with, I really liked Ultimate Spider-Man. I think this is as good as Ultimate Spider-Man was, which was the best-selling Marvel book for a long time, so well done. And they should take that as a sign. People like books that are focused about people with real lives.
What I really like about it, too, is that it's not in New York. It's close. It's in Jersey City, which is right across the bridge.
And they very frequently make comments about things like, this is not New York. Like, that's not how we do stuff yet.
Yeah.
But they,
like a lot of like, oh, so this is the hero we get?
Right. And, well, what really works for the show, actually... Sorry, the show. So that's the setup, and it's good. But what really, I think, puts it over the top... it can be a little on the nose in the social commentary sometimes, but that's, they're writing for a younger audience. And it's like with Supergirl, I always have to remind myself, Supergirl always annoys me because the writing's so on the nose progressive. I say this as someone who is very left-leaning politically, but from a writer's point of view, it's often so overwritten. Miss Marvel can be a little bit like that sometimes, but I have to remember I am older than its target audience,
And this is something I will say, and I do not consider it a fault. I don't consider this a fault, but G. Willow herself is a Muslim. I believe she is Pakistani. And I get the sense like some of the comics that really dive into that, specifically in a social setting or a social commentary viewpoint, is done so because of the tone these days.
Yes.
You know?
And also, when there's a lack of representation, a little bit of on the nose is sometimes needed.
Right.
So I totally get that. I don't see it as a fault either. It's a case of I sometimes have to remind myself that I'm not the person who sometimes needs to hear those affirming messages.
Right.
But what
Sinister Minister says, 1 super per city, please. You know, that, I'm not going to go on a huge tangent about that, but yeah, that is something I wish you'd see more in Marvel, is other locales than New York.
Less New York, please.
Yes.
Well, Venom's moving to San Francisco in the new movie. We saw it. The Golden Gate Bridge is going to hover in the middle of the scene at all times. It was such a bad poster. We'll talk about that later.
Right.
We have to talk about the Captain Marvel trailer, too.
Yeah.
So, but what really makes the series excel, in my opinion, what really pushes it from good to great, is the villains.
Yes.
Who are
villains
all,
are pretty good.
without a fail, the stupidest villains. But so funny. The first villain Miss Marvel
oddly
encounters.
Poignant as well.
Pardon?
They're also oddly poignant.
Yes. Well, the first villain that Miss Marvel encounters is a character called the Inventor, who, when we first see him, is presented to us as a clone of Thomas Edison that got accidentally contaminated during the production process with some DNA from a cockatiel. So it's if Thomas Edison was alive in the present day as a clone, but was also like a parrot man.
and like the design is awesome too, because it's a giant parakeet head with like a vest and like a one of those watches, a pocket watch, chain, and like nice slacks.
It's so good. And his grand scheme is he basically thinks the most useful thing for millennials is for them to be giant batteries for machines.
Yep.
So, and he's convinced millennials to agree with him too. He has like a little following of people who want to be batteries in his machines.
Right. And like, but the way they write, it's not like they're brainwashed. He convinces them. He uses their desire for like social good and change, and like it's the teenager who wants to change the world mentality. He preys on that and warps it in such a way that they agreed to be these batteries.
Right. And we have some interesting villains over the course. We have the Inventor, who we later find out. I mean, it's hinted at in his first appearance, actually, that the Inventor's assistant is actually the Brains, the guy who cloned him. So we later find out. In fact, the second time he appears is even funnier.
The giant chameleon.
Yeah. And in general, the villains are pretty good. There are some good ones. Like there's a Hydra run development company that wants to gentrify the neighborhood, and without her permission uses Ms. Marvel as a spokesperson, like as a mascot, turning the whole city against her. They're just
I like the living computer virus.
Yes, who basically like imitates the internet and just becomes the shittiest person on Earth.
It was an AI that was supposed it was supposed to be almost like a gold farming thing for an MMO.
Right.
That was supposed to mimic the actions of the internet, but it got the wrong parts.
Right, it just becomes crappy. And also makes a return too in like as a cheerleader type.
Right.
Although I haven't seen the conclusion to that plot yet, I don't think it's in my volume. Do you know, now it comes to talking about it, I'm forgetting the details, but so like that the Hydra character comes back a couple of times as like counts as a mayor, and they do interesting things with it. They always find an interesting angle with the villains that is kind of weirdly life affirming. The one I actually really like is the one where they go to the science fair to make the project, and Miles Morales is there, and they know each other but can't let on.
Right.
Which is a good one.
You actually touched on it. Like one of my favorite storylines does involve the second appearance of the Inventor, More so because that whole storyline focuses almost entirely on the supporting cast.
Yes, because
of Miss
Kamala's
Marvel.
taken a little time off.
Yeah, but that also leads to one of the best B plots I've ever seen, where she has a friend, right, who works at a deli, who makes her the most amazing looking sandwich I've ever seen, drawn or otherwise. Like, and his whole goal is to bring Kamala the sandwich because I think it was a bet or something like that.
Well, it's actually kind of a nice moment because he's Jewish.
Yeah.
So they eat sandwiches together because they have this connection in that they have similar diet restrictions.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, he goes to bring her this sandwich, and he can't find her, but he is so goddamn determined to deliver this sandwich that he basically becomes a detective and is able to hunt her down where she's been hiding at this like preparatory school.
Right.
But it's like, that's what's so amazing about Miss Marvel is that you can have these storylines going on where Miss Marvel is fighting these villains and these social commentary stuff is going on, but in almost the whole run, there's always like these little side things going on.
Yeah. The only
that
thing...
are so grounded and amazing. That's the best way. They're grounded. They're grounded.
The only thing that was a little bit of a shame about the whole thing is that issue also introduces that character.
Yeah.
So as much as I like it, I always think about how much nicer it would have been if we knew that character already.
Right.
Because it feels like they had that plot and they needed someone to do it, but they didn't have anyone in the cast already that could do it.
Right. Well, the funny thing is like about that storyline is that because I do follow G Willow on Twitter, so I got to see that kind of play out from the sidelines as well. And she went out of her way to make a lot of tweets basically saying like, this is a storyline that I've been wanting to tell in comics for years. She apparently she had this dream storyline about the need to deliver a sandwich.
That's great.
But she could never find a way to do it, and she made some tweets basically saying like it wasn't perfectly introduced, but this was the best shot I had of getting this storyline into a comic.
That's great.
And it's funny because apparently a kosher deli, some of the employees read her comics and saw this storyline play out and sent her herself an exact replica of the sandwich.
So funny. That's great.
An edible version of that actual sandwich.
So I will say the arc I currently find the most interesting, and I wish I could read. I'm gonna find a way to read on because I want to see how it moves. But the thing I currently find the most interesting and the way it sort of ties into ideas of different things like what it means to be a young person today and what it means to be accountable and social awareness and things like that. Mm-hmm. It's the arc with, I've forgotten his name, but like the Flash Thompson character.
Right, yeah.
What is bully,
I can't remember his name. Yeah.
Who, he starts off as a bit of a bully, and then he has like a redemption arc.
Yeah, you find out he's actually like a genius. Like he's actually very, very smart.
And he's legitimately likable. Mm-hmm. And he has a bit of a bad time because he gets locked up during the Civil War arc. And I will say this whole thing of Ms. Marvel and her trainee cadets who don't really listen to her in that story. Right. That's the bit about the Civil War arc that works, right?
Right.
And where that ultimately goes when she finds out that they're basically locking up her friends is good. And the effect that has on her relationship with Bruno, which is all very interesting. Like, I like the Bruno character too, and I think they handle that pretty well as well. Mm-hmm. All pretty good. But ultimately what happens to him, I think it's sad, and the saddest thing about it is it's very believable.
Yeah. It's a character. It's a character. I don't want to say. Well, it's a little bit of a spoiler, but it's a character switch that makes too much sense, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's heartbreaking.
Because you wanted to believe he was better than that.
Right.
And the way they go with I'm so bad with character names, but the girl who starts off as like the mean popular girl too.
Yep. She has a great moment.
Well, I like her run because the second time we see the inventor, all Kamala's friends are taking turns pretending to be Miss Marvel, so everyone knows Miss Marvel's still there.
Yeah.
And most of it seems to be falling on Mike, who is not great at it.
Yeah, and she's just like, "Oh God, stop!" Like,
Mike, one of the best characters. Although there is a moment where they want to be body positive, but they also want to make a fat joke. So they just have Kamala make it and then feel bad.
Right.
Which makes me laugh. Because sometimes you do just want to say the mean thing and then you feel bad, right?
Right.
It's very human.
No, and that's what I mean. Like the side stuff that is going on, in these stories often turn out to be really great important moments.
Right.
So with that character, I can't remember her name either, but you start to see hints of her being attracted to another female member of their little posse, this Nakia. That was her name, right? Nakia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's an interesting character we don't see enough. She's always there, but they sometimes forget she's there, you know?
Right. And she often acts as like Kamala's voice of reason.
Right. But very specifically a Muslim voice of reason. She's the voice of her I don't want to say she's the voice of her old life, because a big part of the arc is reconciliation between what she sees as her old life and her new life, you know?
It's the voice of her culture.
Right.
But we start to see this attraction happening from this popular girl towards Nakia. And they hint at it, and they hint at it, and they hint at it for a few arcs. And, you know, and to me, I was reading it, and I kind of expected, like, okay, there's going to be, like, this is how this plays out, right? It's, eventually she's going to tell her, like, oh, I love you. But, you know, or I love you. And then Naki's like, oh, I love you too, you know, or something like that, right? But how it actually plays out makes the moment much more impactful, because it comes to a situation where it's with the internet AI troll, right?
Right.
And the internet AI troll has figured out who Kamala is, and basically says, if I'm going to release all your friends' secrets if you don't reveal yourself to the world, who you are.
Yeah.
Including the fact that her friend is in love with Nakia.
And also gay, because, like, this is she's not out at that time.
Right, yeah. She's not out. And so Miss Marvel has a choice, right? And she chooses to let her friends' secrets come out. And, like, you expect it to be like, oh no, you know, and like tensions to flare up, and like a division now to happen between the group because Miss Marvel let the secrets come out instead of revealing her own. But her friend, like, I don't want to say take it in stride, but
well, she preempts that releasing almost.
Right.
Yeah. She actually tells Nakia before Nakia finds out, if I remember rightly.
Yes. She knows that it's coming, and so she goes to Nakia and tells her, this is how I feel. And Nakia tells her, like, well, I'm not gay. But
we can still be friends.
Yeah, but we're still cool.
And it's one of the best moments in the book.
So yeah, so then it gets released, right? And of course, the high school acts as you would expect a high school to act, where they're kind of making fun of her and they're trying to tease her, but all her friends come together to stand with her in that moment.
In fact, they have a group hug.
Yes, it's very pretty.
It's nice.
But you also don't get the typical like, oh, I hate you now because you let this happen.
But when they do stuff like that, though, it's worth mentioning. It doesn't feel like, what's the right word? Sappy.
Right.
It's very well written.
You know what it feels like to me?
Hmm?
It honestly, what it feels like is proper reactions for the new progressive teenager, you know?
Right.
Which is heartwarming.
Yeah. So there is one issue I really like, and I want to mention it. And it's the slow runaway train.
Yes, I've been trying to tell you about this issue forever. I fucking love that issue.
So there are two superheroes, and they're trying to stop this runaway train.
Mm.
But the runaway train is running away, but not quickly. Like, it can't stop. But trains go at a constant speed when they... So, there are these two characters. They are on top of a train, and essentially, while they're trying to stop this runaway train, they have time to go for snacks at one point.
Yeah.
And it's actually, weirdly, it's an issue where they're trying to stop a runaway train, but it's actually a sort of a slow issue where they work through some shit. It's a really good issue. I don't think there's a huge amount to say about it, but it's so well done.
Well, my favorite is that the conductor is with them the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he keeps on commenting on what they're talking about.
It's great. And he's just down in the cabin. It's really good. I also like so there's a character in this book called Bruno. Mm-hmm. He's a boy genius. He's sort of Kamala's guy in the chair, reluctantly. Mm-hmm. He's her sidekick. He does all the research, and he's responsible for why she has a suit that's super stretchy too, because he invented her. Yeah. He's the science whiz. He's like the science bit of Peter Parker, which is important to do all the stuff. And he's the only person for a long time who knows that she's Miss Marvel, which is great. And he leaves for a while because basically being the person who helps a superhero is a shitty job. And he has a really, really horrible time with it.
Yeah, something really bad happens to him.
And he goes away to
Wakanda.
He becomes a Wakandan exchange student. Well, an American exchange student in Wakanda. Which is hilarious.
Which is great.
I think anyone who's ever been the kid one of the few kids in their town who went off to university will tell you, it's a real leap from being the smartest person in your class to one of the dumbest, or feeling like that. And that's his experience, right? He's used to being a genius, and then all of a sudden everyone around him is smarter than him.
Right.
And we actually see Black Panther in quite an interesting role, where he just lets someone steal something from a research. He just lets someone steal vibranium because they're family, which I think was pretty funny. Yeah. I mean, obviously, yes, they had good intentions, but you know what I mean? It's a funny scene.
Well, right, because like how do they word it? Like, because they go through this whole heist thing about stealing this little bit of vibranium,
and he says it's because he wants to use it to make something to impress women. His friend. Yeah.
And so he goes through the whole thing, and then at the very end, something goes very wrong, and they get rescued by a Black Panther.
Yeah, because they're about to fall off the building, I think.
Right, and like the Black Panther makes some comment or like, as a member of a royal family, you have a certain amount that you can have.
He also says like, he says, I always suspected you'd embarrass us. but today you made me proud. And I was like, but you always thought he was going to embarrass you? That's a bit of a dick move. Right. T'Challa. It's a little unnecessary. It's pretty funny. So yeah, no, it's the whole arc with Bruno in Wakanda is nice. It's a good book, and I want to read more. And it might actually be the book that gets me to actually keep up with comics month by month again, rather than just waiting for trades. I'm considering subscribing on Comixology like a good boy.
So I wish the Comixology Unlimited service. That was called Comixology Unlimited.
Marvel Unlimited.
It's Marvel Unlimited, and Comixology has their own very similar service.
Comixology Total Reduction of Limits. You just open it up and it just sings that song No Limits at you. No, 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 there's no limits.
He's like, all right, I'm going to load in. I'm a no-limit soldier. Time to go to war.
But there are no comics on there, and you're like, well, what is this?
Just Master P.
It's just that song. But this cost me $20 a month. It's a great song, isn't it?
Yeah, comics. No, it's not. Comixology has a very similar service of Marvel Unlimited, where I think it is usually 6 months back, but it stretches across multiple publishers, but you can read those essentially for free as long as you pay up.
You can read those for free as long as you pay.
as long as you're paying for your service, or your subscription, you can read as many as you want.
Well, we might have that here. Let me take a look. Let me see if we got that.
What is called it? Damn it! I'm on my computer. What am I doing? But yeah, I've been using the Marvel Unlimited.
No, it is called Comixology Unlimited.
Huh, yeah, there you go. But I've been using the Marvel Unlimited because I got a free month with Spider-Man, the game, and so I've been using it. And it is, I remember before I got a chance to try it, I was hesitant about it because I was under the impression that it was all very old comics. Like, I thought when I first read about it, I thought it was all like legacy, series, like, oh, you get to read all of Spider-Man through the 60s and 70s. You can read all of...
I would be all over that, though.
You can read those. They are there. There is now, I think they said, over 30,000 comics on the service. I was unaware of how up to date they actually are. So from what I've looked, every series I've looked at, it's pretty standard to be about 7 issues behind.
Ooh.
So you're generally looking at about a half a year back.
Okay, so I'm up to date with Miss Marvel up to issue 30.
Right.
Which means I am 7 issues behind. That's not too bad, actually, for trades.
Yeah. Right. So if you were to sign up for this Marvel Unlimited, you can now read it monthly, but you are still going to be 7 months behind.
So I'll be exactly in time. But how much does it cost a month?
$10.
Because you see, it's only £2.50 for an issue of Miss Marvel once a month.
Right. It's $10 a month, or you can up it to. There's a plus version of the subscription. I don't know what the benefits are. Exactly, but
I am really considering. How often does Miss Marvel come out? Is it monthly?
It's a monthly book.
I think I'm going to subscribe to that. I think I'm gonna catch up with these issues here. I think I'm going to sub to that.
Mm-hmm. When I tried it out, the first weekend that I had it, and I realized just how much I had available to me.
I'm not subscribing to that. I think I'm just going to subscribe to Miss Marvel.
Oh yeah, but I'm saying that when I probably read close to $150 worth of comics. Which,
see, I would get through more than that on the old issues.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm right now. I'm in the process of I'm reading a lot of series that I read back in the day, but never got a chance to really finish. One in particular that we just mentioned, actually, Black Panther. So Black Panther had 3 series that all kind of happened together. They're all really good. There was Black Panther, which is Black Panther: The Man Without Fear, Then Black Panther, The Most Dangerous Man, which was a continuation of Black Panther Man Without Fear. It was T'Challa in Hell's Kitchen taking over for Daredevil when Daredevil went crazy during Shadowland and took off and left. So T'Challa came in to cover. But at the same time, there was the actual Black Panther series going on, which explains the events that led him to leaving Wakanda to coming to Hell's Kitchen. And during that time, it's actually Shuri who dons the mantle of Black Panther, his sister. And I remember reading these back when they were coming out and being really into them, but then like money issues hit, so I had to kind of drop them, and I never got back to them. And there's something that I realized this time reading, that I was not quite as socially aware back then, back in 2008 when these were first coming out.
Right.
If you ever question the legitimacy of people saying that there's a problem with how female characters are depicted as opposed to male characters, read that series, all right? Because it starts out with T'Challa talking with Namor in Atlantis, and you see T'Challa in his full Black Panther getup, right? And it's the black suit, you can see some muscles or whatever, but it's very clearly just a tactical suit, right? There's like, it's armored, it's made out of a matte finish material, and it looks legitimate, like an actual suit. Cut to Shuri putting on the suit, and it suddenly becomes a skin-tight latex shiny suit. She basically wears a tighter version of Trinity's outfit from The Matrix. All right? And everything is there. Like her boobs are hanging out in this thing, like they're clear as day. It's just out there, right? And then when they show like Wakanda, because Storm is still in the picture with this, because at this time T'Challa is still married to Storm. They're not anymore, spoiler. Storm is there, and she runs around the whole time wearing basically a strap of fabric wrapped around her boobs, and like a skirt where her legs are completely exposed, and it's just the front and back of the skirt.
Right.
Like it's like two strips in the front and the back to kind of hide her, well, essentially to hide her vagina and her ass. Like, that's it. So, yeah. Sorry, everyone. There's a fucking representation problem, right?
You think?
And this is not a long time ago. This is, like I said, 2008, I believe.
Well, did you see Shadow of the Tomb Raider has this optional costume you can get, and it's actually just Lara Croft in like she's in like cargo pants and like a camo jacket, like a hat, makes it look a little bit like a soldier,
Mm-hmm.
And when they posted that on the Twitter account that this was a pre-order bonus, it was full of comments, people saying, I'm not pre-ordering to see Lara in those ugly clothes. Where are the hot clothes? Where you get a pre-order where she shows some skin.
Real quick, I want to say hello to Atomic Adam 7 over on Twitch. Hello. Hey. By the way, everyone, we are over on Twitch as well. We are also streaming on YouTube if you're watching us on Twitch. But hello, welcome. We're talking about comics.
Hello.
Is it me you're looking for? I can see it in your eyes. Sorry. Lionel Richie does something to me.
And goodbye to viewers on Twitch.
But yes, welcome, Atomic Adam. By the way, this is a interactive show, so if you have any questions, comments.
If you have any comics, send them our way.
Comics? We'll read them. No, if you have any questions or comments or topics you would like us to discuss, feel free to throw them in the chat and we will get to them. That goes for you too, YouTube people. All right.
You too, YouTube people. That goes for you too, you two.
I'm looking at you, Bono. I know you're watching.
He is looking at you, Bono, from the movie Casablanca. Famous movie quotes. Hashtag.
Right. Do you ever know the actual real story behind those stupid glasses he wears?
What, Bono?
Yeah.
He's pretentious?
No, apparently. Well, yes. But in terms of the glasses, he actually has, I guess, one of the most horrific lazy eyes. Or,
He's a witch from the Roald Dahl movie The Witches, and this is how he disguises the purple eyes.
But apparently the glasses hide or obscure how drifty his eye can be.
I don't believe it. I've seen his eyes through, that stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's just something I think he said on the Graham Norton show. He explained the situation. But anyways. But yeah, comics. Pretty cool. Black Panther.
Yeah, they're good.
Pretty solid, yeah. But yeah, I've been using the Marvel Unlimited service quite a bit, and it's been great. And the nice thing, it has the same sort of presentation settings as Comixology Reader does, where you can switch it to the panel-to-panel view.
I will say, though, I do think it's kind of interesting that a service called Marvel Unlimited has 3 tiers of pricing.
Right. What you have that page up still?
No, not anymore.
Oh, I was gonna say, what are the differences in the tiers?
Well, so monthly and annual get you the same thing, which is basically being able to read the comics. I imagine it's the same stuff as you get in your free trial. And then the last one's called Annual Plus, and it's stuff like special invitation to Marvel events.
Yeah, I'll pass.
It's all stuff that has nothing to do with reading comics.
Fair enough.
You know what I mean? I'll look at it. I'll pull it up. I'll read it.
I want to say...
Okay, here it is. Here it is. Annual Plus. So, with monthly and annual, you get instant streaming access to 20,000 Marvel comics, member-only deals on Marvel comics and merchandise. That's what you get with everything, right?
Sure.
If you have the Plus, you get invites to incredible exclusive Marvel events, which I bet that's not frequent.
No.
10% off Marvel merchandise every day at the Marvel shop. So a discount at the Marvel shop, which if you buy a lot of merchandise, that's probably good, but I don't.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'm guessing that's like hoodies and t-shirts.
And then there's a discount for the Marvel digital comic shop. So if you want to buy some comics to keep, which I imagine if you're going for Marvel Unlimited, you actually probably don't. Do you know what I mean?
You know, I was thinking about that. Like, I don't know. I guess I can see where it can come into play. Like,
yeah.
Like for me, reading Unlimited, what I'm find myself getting ready to do, because I'm just catching up on the stuff I've always wanted to read. But as I'm nearing the end of that, I've actually been kind of putting together a little list of series that I've always been on the fence interested in,
right.
But never really wanted to pull the trigger because of money.
You know what I mean, right? Someone who leaps into the subscription service probably isn't looking to spend a ton on comics on the store anymore.
Right, but I can see how.
Yeah, well, that's the of the Annual Plus benefits. That's the one that would appeal to me the most.
Yes, exactly.
And then the last thing is you get like a little one-off, like a mini loot box, which has a Hasbro Marvel Legend Venomized Punisher figure, 2 exclusive Venomized variant comics, Black Panther #1 and Venom #1, and then a Fantastic Four patch and a Fantastic Four Thing pin. So, not bad, but like not for me, like the first 2 are the service.
And that's a one-off? It's not like a thing, like an ongoing thing?
Well, I guess if you renew with another year, they'll probably have like a slightly different one in a year's time.
Oh, okay. All right. So I imagine it is yearly. You get a box a year.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't say that.
Right.
Like maybe if you auto renew it, you don't get it. You might have to specifically order it every year. You know.
Right, because that's weird to me. Cause I imagine like next year it's not going to be the same box
Probably is.
because one, we're going to ride this Black Panther Venom
Maybe they
train
send you it
all the way to
every
hell.
month. Every month you get an exclusive one-off Venomized Punisher figure and the same Fantastic Four patch and pin. And in 12 months you'll be like, no, no more pins. You just covered in patches and pins.
Pins.
Like a Rob Liefeld hero. Did you see, by the way, Rob Liefeld just came out and confirmed? Because, okay, so for a long time there's been a suspicion, and there's been rumors, but nothing concrete. Like, everyone's known it, but we haven't had confirmation that because Fox had the rights to X-Men, Marvel were telling people not to introduce any more X-Men characters, right? Like, we all knew it was happening, but Marvel were denying it, and...
Oh, and not only that, they were also actively, like, killing the X-Men. Like,
right. So we
pushing
all...
in.
Like, it was very speculated, but no one had... But that's what it was, right?
Right.
Speculation. Did you hear that Liefeld confirmed it? Basically, or at least he reported that he had been told it by the guys running the X-Men books.
Our hero.
So he's coming back to X-Men, right?
Okay.
And he was basically, maybe he was just bigging himself up, but he basically said that the people who brought him on just said, like, we have not had the budget to bring on any names for years now, because...
But at the same time, like, it is a weird thing, because they made a point of, do you know how many like new X books there are right now?
Sure.
There's X-Men Gold, Blue, and Red. Gambit and Rogue have their own book.
Well, I guess the difficulty is this period of Fox having the rights to X-Men also coincided with like the X-Men TV series coming to a close and a new X. So the problem is, before Marvel got into movies themselves, they were really pushing X-Men because X-Men was like the one successful movie,
right?
For about 3 years there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So we finished X-Men the animated series, then we got X-Men Evolution, then we got the Wolverine and the X-Men. Do you know what I mean? We got so many of those shows in quick succession, and a lot of other books, and so like the X-Men kind of needed stepping back from the third inning a little bit, the herd thinning a little bit.
Well,
but,
you know, and that's always been a problem with the X-Men, because they've done that a couple times. Like every once in a while, you need the call the X-Men. You know, it's like under the John, not the John Burns, the Chris Claremont era. You know, the X-Men roster went from there's 5 X-Men, and then there's like 10 mutant villains out there, and
right, every so often there's a mutant holocaust, which they tie in nice and thematically to the old themes, and they get rid of a lot of characters.
Right, but yeah, under Claremont also, it's like there are 800 different X-Men that we need you all to memorize, because we're going to reference them from time to time.
But with all that said, and with all that, very much I agree completely. I did think it was interesting that this is a case of a professional, established artist and writer in comics coming out and saying that the person who commissioned him to do the book told him that they were getting more budget for X-Men books now that they got the rights back, and that they hadn't had it for about 10 years. They hadn't had the same budget. And I thought that was interesting, because they have always denied it.
You know what's actually really weird with Marvel these days, and I didn't really know this. So this happened just recently. God damn, I cannot remember her name. I wish. Oh, it's gonna really bother me that I don't remember her name. But she's kind of what. She didn't kick it off, but it was in response to her that the Comicsgate thing really took off.
Mm.
You've heard about like the milkshake summit thing,
right?
So she was.
By the way, fuck the Comicsgate guys. So
yeah, fuck those.
Fuck you guys.
Yeah, Comicsgate is the most ridiculous. Like it's sad to say. Like it's like the way the Comicsgate people acting, like in a real horrific way, gives some sort of credibility to the the Gamergate people.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's ridiculous. And have you? Oh my! Hold on.
Holding on.
Animal, stop it. So she was like poised to do a Vision series, focusing on the Vision and specifically his daughter, Viv. Because if you've been reading Avengers or the Champions, you've realized that there has become a sort of tension between these two, between Viv and the Vision. And she had written and it had already been illustrated and colored 4 issues. All right, they came on and said that there was 4 issues already in the can, ready to go, and they canceled it. They canceled the series. Now, it happens like this. You know, it does happen in comics, right? This isn't brand new thing happening, but the issue is that both the Vision and Viv have never been in a better spotlight than they are now. Vision having such a important role in Infinity War, Champions being a very popular book, and Viv being a key member in that group. The most recent Avengers run, which featured Vision prominently, was very popular. So the profile for these 2 characters has never been better. And Marvel has come out and said, been very, very precise with their wording of why they canceled this book. Of like, oh well, it could possibly interfere with ongoing storylines involving the Champions and the Avengers and blah blah blah. Okay, but I guess from what I understand is that this creator has come out and said that this storyline that she pitched and was given approval for would not have impacted those at all. It would have been very much a side story.
Yeah, it's rough.
So there is some suggestion that maybe Marvel caved a little bit.
Yeah, that would be terrible. And that deserves more time, but I have to be going soon.
Okay.
Before I go, I think we should talk about the Captain Marvel trailer briefly.
Yes. Let's talk about the Marvel.
Not
Marvel,
what I was expecting.
Captain Marvel. No, really?
Not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Got a nice blockbuster video shot in there to know it's set in the 90s. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't expecting an amnesiac alien plot.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because I should... Cards on the table, I'm not overly familiar with this incarnation of Captain Marvel. I am a little bit familiar with the Marvel Rick Jones era.
Carol Danvers suffers from the same sort of origin that what's another really stupidly convoluted origin, like Hawkman from DC.
Right, that makes sense. I will say
her origin has been retconned and changed and altered so many times that it's really hard to pinpoint where the fuck she comes from these anymore.
So my basic, like the extent of my knowledge of Carol Danvers is her appearances in Miss Marvel, and I don't know if you remember, but do you remember in the 90s X-Men show, Rogue could fly and stuff?
Because she took the powers from Miss Marvel. She took the
powers from Carol Danvers, and that's in an episode. Carol Danvers is in that episode, which is interesting. Which is an interesting take, because I don't think that was a big part of Rogue's story in the comics, right?
No. In fact, I remember being very confused as a child reading X-Men comics and having a Rogue that wasn't strong, super strong, or could fly.
What's interesting is they didn't just go, okay, that's Rogue's mutant powers. They made her
Right.
like that, and then they picked another existing Marvel character for her to have taken the powers from and wrote that into the show. Such a strange choice.
Yeah.
But that's my extent. That's my introduction to. That's my knowledge of Carol Danvers.
Yeah.
But I think this trailer looks really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so do I. And we talked a little bit, with each other about it. And one of the things that you mentioned, I've actually seen other people mention, is how very serious it appears to be. And like I said, I had a theory. I still have this theory. Is I think I'm very, very smartly on their part. This is going to be Marvel's first female-led movie, right? Yes, we had, Black Widow's been running around as a very prominent member of the Avengers. We had Ant-Man and the Wasp, but this is going to be the
Which is
first.
Great, by the way. Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
Go see it. It's good.
I still need to see it.
I thought you were going to rent those this weekend.
I didn't get around to it.
Do the first one, then we can talk about it next week.
Yeah. So this is going to be Marvel's first female-led movie, right? I think they are definitely going to double down on it being Carol Danvers as a heavy hitter, serious character.
Well, I'll tell you, not in terms of plot structure, but I would say the tone reminded me of a Superman movie.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
They were playing her like Superman, I thought. Not explicitly like Superman, but you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like a... there's a certain type of hero that Superman fits into, not necessarily Captain America, but do you know what I mean? These like
grand,
light of the world type characters.
Yes, and that's what I mean. Like I feel like she's gonna have a very grand movie. You
like
know
the
what I mean?
Wonder Woman movie version of Wonder Woman.
Yes, very much, where it's larger than life. No room for her not to be taken seriously. Like you couldn't. I mean, you could, but in terms of like the tone of the world these days, with all the shit nonsense that's going on, it would be a very poor choice if they had presented her as Guardians of the Galaxy or Thor Ragnarok, starring Carol Danvers. Like that would have been a huge mistake. Did you see all the bullshit about the smiling thing?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It looks like what they're going to do, I think, is there's going to be humor in because it's going to be a Marvel movie.
Sure. Well, I mean, we did see a little bit in the trailer where she punches an old lady, which immediately makes her my favorite character.
But I think what we're going to see is most of the humor centered around Nick Fury and Coulson.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm looking forward to seeing Coulson again because I like that character and I've enjoyed him in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I was so negative about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when I first saw it, and I've come around to it. I like it now.
You know what I think we're going to get is, as the heroics go, it is going to be a very grand thing. We saw that image at the end of her like powering up and all the flames shooting around her and stuff like that. That is a hero poster if I've ever seen one. But I think on a personal level, a story we're going to get is actually going to be something. Oddly, I don't want to say it this way as a disparaging thing because I don't. I actually mean it as a very positive thing. I think we're actually going to get a very personal, feminine story about, because she's amnesiac and we see like glimpses of her other, or not her other lives, but her past, of her with her co-pilot and her as a child and her going through boot camp and stuff like that. I think we're going to get a very strong story about what it means to be a daughter, a female in the military.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Did you also see on the poster that Chewbacca's on it?
Oh, the cat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of neat. Mm-hmm. So, I do have to go soon. Just before we wrap up, because I do have to get out of here. Did you also see that there's a leak, possibly, of what the PlayStation Plus games are this month? Maybe.
I heard you talking about during your stream. I don't remember what they are though.
Someone posted a screenshot, which could turn out to be fake. Yeah. It's the Diablo 3 collection with all the DLC, which I've just this week started playing on the Xbox One. Good timing.
Yeah, that game translates well to console in a way that I didn't think it would.
I think so too. And a special one for you, John. Neo. You'll get behind that.
You know what? Neo, when I played the demo, seemed fun.
I like Neo. It's good.
It felt more fun to play than I feel the Souls games do.
I like the stances mechanics.
Yes, that's what I liked a lot about it, because it's not the same mechanic, but I did get a feel for it the same way I felt for Honor. Right. You know, I like to be able to switch up stances and whatnot. That's a fun addition to the games that I always liked.
Yeah, that's good. But I've got to go, John. Do you want to see us out?
Yes.
I do apologize for the abrupt leaving, but
no problem. Real quick, Lou's Corner says, I really enjoyed the stream. Good. I'm glad you liked it. I hope you come back for more. I know you will.
Damn well better.
But yes, if you do enjoy what we listen to, please share with your friends. Share the link around. Post it on Facebook and all the social medias and all that fun stuff. But yes, thank you all for watching. This has been another episode of Those Aren't Biscuits. I have been one of your hosts, Jonathan Cadot, and with me as always has been Owen Adams. Owen, where can they find you normally?
Well, you can find me by going to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Owen Adams.
Perfect. And you can find me right here on this channel. This is where I post all my content when I decide to actually make some. Or you can find me on Twitter, which is @JohnCPerson. That's JON, the letter C, person. And until next time, have a good one.